CLG are going to go into game number 2 with 1 victory under their belt. Let's see if they can get a second one, and or if we're going to see 3 separate games. Don't forget, best of 3s this year. Trifecta, what do they got to change here?
I mean, honestly, the Soul Lane went pretty well for them. The Cucullin, I doubt they'll get it as late as they did in the first draft. Sure. It's crazy to me that it lasted that long. Scary looked pretty good on it, but again, that is a Warrior into a Guardian matchup. If I'm Trifecta, I really am just looking at we need something that can get a little bit better into the back line. Nemesis is very, very good right now, certainly worthy of that first pick, but against Mercury, who can become slow immune, with the Terra ultimate, with slow immunity on the Soul 3 as well, those are just picks that Nemesis has a lot of trouble dealing with. I think that if Mask can be on a comfortable character, and Zapman can be comfortable as well. Zap and Mask were the 2 players that really fell short there for Trifecta. Yeah. If they can step up and do a little bit better, I think they'll have a much better chance of winning game 2.
For me, I didn't have any trouble with the Nemesis selection. I think just Mask's decision-making on where he was making his plays kind of fell short. Either way, Trifecta is going to ban out the Nemesis and go with the Soul, likely to be on Zapman's side. Sorry for the brief mistake over there on CLG. We'll fix that in a moment. Soul, I think, the first overall pick here for Trifecta. Zapman does love this character. He's very adept at it, so I expect to see it there. Like you said, Trifecta noticed that the jungle and the hunter were lacking, so let's pick Soul up first. First of all, we got beat by it, and second of all, our hunter can play it very well.
Perfect. I love it. This is not a lot is bad again. You know, you're not having a lot of bad counter matchups. Yeah. I'd say that Mercury is almost a bad counter matchup for Nemesis because he can stop all of her slows just by pressing too.
Good point.
You don't have any of those potential bad matchups with Soul, and it's still flexible. You know, this doesn't have to go to Zapman. This can go to Metyankey in the mid lane, who, by the way, used to play Hunter at a very high level, and Soul is one of those guys that he can play very well. Ratatoskr, a comfort pick for Mask in the jungle, one of his signature gods, if not his signature god, along with Mercury. Already loving this draft from Trifecta. It's basically just ripping it away from CLG, changing out the Mercury for that Ratatoskr for a little bit of extra early pressure.
Metyankey, I mentioned earlier in his transition to the mid lane, once upon a time was a very adept hunter. Metyankey played the, he left a lot to be desired, wasn't my favorite mid laner, but the 2 characters I liked him on, Agni and I almost said Sayo and Isis.
Yep.
2 characters that can, we talked about it in game number 1 about how the control comes there. Metyankey playing the hard carry mid laners doesn't always make it happen, but when you're able to make him the utility guy, I think that's where you're going to get the most out of Metyankey's mid position. I love this draft from Trifecta. It's not even done yet, and I think they have already filled the holes of game number 1.
Now they need to take a lesson from what CLG did though, and pick some heavy frontline in this spot. That's what really enabled these these late game carries, I should say, not only Mercury as the assassin, but the Soul and the Agni to feel safe enough to play aggressive and then use their mobility to get them out of danger when necessary. CLG sticking with the exact same 2 frontliners, Cerberus and Terra here. So if Trifecta wants to go the double Guardian, basically has to be a Sobek in the Soul lane, I'd imagine, and an early pick right there, and then you can go for something like a Ganesh to stop the breath coming out of Cerberus. Try and do that. Bellona as a frontliner certainly works here, a little bit more aggressive, but that kind of pairs well with the early game aggression that Rat is going to bring in comparison to the Mercury from CLG's draft in game number 1. So a pretty similar style of draft here from Trifecta, but it is a little bit more of their style, which is a good choice.
10th pick, Camazotz for the first player.
Can you hear Europe like yelling right now? Europe has been first picking Camazotz all week. And it's already, you can see the difference is happening there. I can hear them screaming that there was no Divine Ruin early on in that game 1. I can hear them now yelling that Camazotz makes it to 10th pick. It's part of the fun of seeing the 2 regions.
I can hear Trifecta yelling at themselves for forgetting about Camazotz. Homiefe was the first player to bring out Camazotz at a high level of competitive play. People just call him Homiezots, and now the character is better in a better meta. This is scary. I was really all Trifecta until I saw that Camazotz pick. We'll see how the game unfolds with Finch and Taco.
Thank you, Tom and Ryan, there on the desk. And Homie's going to get to play that Camazotz for CLG, so let's see if they can take it 2-0, or if Trifecta can force him to a game 3.
One of his favorite gods, and he's finally able to use it. That's a hot yikes from me, but for Trifecta, it seems as though they feel pretty confident. I'm not sure if it was necessarily them overlooking it as much as them expecting it and then trying to draft around it. Having that Agni and the Bellona, I think, are going to be really strong acquisitions for Trifecta in helping prevent Homie do what he wants to do on that Kama.
Well, don't forget there in Mixer Chat, you all can vote to see who's going to be the winner here. We want to get you all's opinion on who's going to be able to take it. Is there going to be a Game 3, or is CLG going to go ahead and wrap this one up? We want your opinion on that one. But Trifecta, the strategy from them seemed to be to try and take some stuff away. They got the Agni and the Soul this time. That does mean Hoi is going to be on Snoopy, though.
Trifecta as well is a team that can make great usage out of both of those gods.
Yeah.
Homie, or seeing what they were able to do, or seeing what CLG was able to do, I should say, on this Soul and Agni, you can kind of expect a little bit of a similar playstyle, I would say, out of Metyankey, except Metyankey might anticipate him to be a bit more aggressive. Having that former Hunter player mentality, he is not scared to try and take up an individual fight, and considering that Hurriwind kind of got the best of that lane last match, Metyankey's a really competitive guy. He's not one that likes to be shown up, and I am definitely looking forward to seeing what he can do with his Agni.
Excuse me here. They have gone with that double Hunter comp here, CLG, so Hurriwind is on the Hoi, and Snoopy going to take that Medusa to the duo lane. Not too bad a selection. How does Medusa do up against Soul in that lane? She does have the acid spray, which is pretty good clear.
Medusa in general is more like one of those Hunter picks that you go when you want good lane clear and you also want a team fighting ultimate, but sometimes you're quite not sure what you're looking for. I love the Medusa pick here because of her passive and being able to not receive any of that auto attack penalty whenever you're sidestepping. Strafing during these competitive level boxing matches is so important. It's very hard to read as well coming out of a Medusa player because you're just hard to hit. You don't have any of the penalties like you would normally receive on other Hunters when trying to go side to side and juking out your opponent while also landing your own autos.
I also like it because since they're not running with the traditional mid-mange, this gives them two big team fighting ultimates on their Hunters so you don't lose that sort of AoE presence that you get from mage between the Suns from Hurriwind and then the Petrify coming out from Snoopy. They're definitely still going to be able to impact multiple people in a team fight.
And considering how aggressive Zapman was playing last game as well against Snoopy, I am happy to see Zapman on the Soul this time around because Soul, again, is one of those gods where it can fit Zap's playstyle, but it can also keep him very safe because of that disapparate.
Yeah, last game, aggressive in some spots, almost to a fault. I want to say, jumping into a fight where, he was going to get ganked or he had a tough time trying to win it. So this time on the Soul, you're right. It just a safer god inherently, and that could enable him to be aggressive but still have a good way to get back out after jumping in.
Homie, though, with a similar strategy to last match where he made this early level 2 rotation over to Trifecta's jungle, but this time there aren't going to be any buffs. Smart play there out of Trifecta to prioritize securing those early on because they didn't want to lose them again to the Camazotz.
And it looks like CLG has won Mixer Chat over there, Taco. It was about 51-48 before, but now it's 67% predicting that CLG is going to be able to close this one out. So they've won over the chat after that strong performance in Game 1. And again, they didn't win it right away. It was a 40-minute game, but it felt like it was in their control for like half of it.
CLG kind of just had that slow bleed effect going on against Trifecta where they wanted to be patient because they knew that there was no rush. The game was probably theirs.
Oh, Mask is here, and he does blink in. He finds the stun on the back onto Jigz. Immediately the sprint and the Aegis come out in response, but there's just nowhere for him to go. Zapman gets first blood this time. I ain't going down for free.
Already a significantly better spot than last game, and that's going to establish the duo and the pacing for it, I should say, more importantly. Trifecta now having full control of this lane pretty much. Snoopy being left to his own devices there since his support had to return to base unwillingly, and now Homie, he was exactly where he wanted to be though during that gank, except he's not going to be able to find the red buff. Early rotation out Trifecta.
Yeah, to me, this is all about a difference in Mask. Last game, what were we saying 15 minutes in? We were saying, where's Mask on this Nemesis pick? Instead, early on this game, Mask comes and ganks the dual lane and sets up Zapman to be in a good position.
We've been talking about how Homie is talked about because of his Camazotz, but the same could be said for Mask on this Ratatoskr.
Yeah.
It's probably one of his more favorite go-to gods, and it's a god that he's displayed excellent capability on in the past.
And that was a gank without the Through the Cosmos ultimate from him, the one that really opens up his semi-global presence. He was able to get that done basically just with the Blink Relic and then with the stun that came out of it. They also got double Relic usage out of Snoopy and Jigz. The Aegis and the Meditation both came out. Now looking for a little bit of return over here in the dual lane, but Zapman, safe on this Soul, goes into Zaparate. In fact, now getting pulled back in is Snoopy and getting smacked in the back with those auto attacks. Finds Stellar Bird for the slow and for the damage. NeiruMah going to try and keep this one going. Snoopy is able to dash away, so he should be okay for now. Can we say the same for Jigz?
He's just trying to body block because look who's making the rotation. He's got the through the Cosmos now. Zapman going to get credited for another last hit. Thanks to Mask.
Yeah, that's the second kill that Zapman should send Mask a thank you letter for, as he was able to help make that one happen. But that's just what I was talking about. The first gank was with the Blink. The second gank was with the Through the Cosmos. Both of them let him suddenly just appear in lane and send a little bit more pressure onto Jigz. He's the one that's taken both of these spills.
And talk about adaptation to a circumstance. Mask realized how much pressure Homie was applying to the duo lane in the previous game by just consistently making those rotations, taking away the buffs, applying pressure onto the buffs even when Trifecta were contesting. And so now he's put all of his emphasis onto early ganking the duo, and it has set Zapman up in a phenomenal spot.
Yeah, this is much better for Trifecta as a whole. Now they're able to get this play around Mask and Zapman together. Last game, Scary D was on the Kukulkan, and he was sort of the shining light for that Trifecta team. Now he's on the Bellona up against Terra, so if he can get even as close to as well as he did last game, but have Zapman and Mask there with him, it'll be scary. CLG, though, coming for the invade on the red buff, and they had 4 members here, so no problem for them to pick that one up.
Take a look, though, at the solo lane for a second here, because Mask has again made that rotation over. He's kind of just leeching a little bit of farm off of Scary D, but wow. Actually, Zapman dropping the ultimate just to make sure that NeiruMah doesn't lose his buff. For once, it's the Hunter supporting the support.
And he got it, too. And it's important to try and secure the farm, to secure the buff itself. And he might not even really need that ultimate in lane if they don't go particularly aggressive. So Zapman makes that call, secures the buff, and he was backing anyway.
But what I was trying to say about the solo lane is that it's that same sort of matchup. Scary D gets a high-pressure solo against a very low-pressure opponent. fineokay, again, representing the Terra. Pure utility team fight. That's all that fineokay is really looking for with this Terra selection. But at the same time, this is what's allowing Mask to put so much more emphasis onto the duo lane. He doesn't have to worry about his solo laner losing the matchup, because if Scary D loses this one, he's got a lot more to worry about than just the match alone. But he's done a great job using that pressure to his advantage, and it's really helping out his jungler.
And now we'll see, because the impact, it feels like, isn't going to happen as early for Hurriwind this game. Last game for CLG, it was Hurriwind and Homiefe that were the ones that were, or Homiefe rather, that were very strong for him. This time, though, with the Hunter mid, they might not be able to have the impact they want as soon. They did blink in, though, into Metyankey, who immediately finds the stun and the dash and the kill with a little bit of help from Mask, who has been everywhere so far. Another spill for CLG.
It seemed as though Hurriwind knew that Mask was ganking before Homie, and by the time he let his teammate get the heads up, he was already in a spot that he couldn't get out of. Unfortunately, Camazotz wasn't able to use his ult, and even if he had, you still take damage. It's similar to the Freya ult, where even though it looks like you're up off the ground, you're still targetable until you're actually in the air.
And it looked like Hurriwind wasn't able to fully follow up on that gank attempt either. This time, though, he does drop the Sunbreaker. Mask immediately able to dodge out of that. Hurriwind's the one who ends up a little bit worse for wear. They're trying to ping him out so they know where he is for Scary D, who comes in and finishes it up. Going in, NeiruMah tanks the tower for him, so they don't have to worry about taking the tower shots. Now they can turn right back around on the Jigz and slam him down with that bludgeon. Dashing out is going to be Metyankey. He's okay. Bad out of hell for Homiefe, who's running for his life and just barely makes it out.
He thought about it for a moment. He really wanted that kill, but just could not afford to do so. Speaking of which, Snoopy now having to go on the mass defensive. Zapman getting that great 2-kill lead has made it so that he could build that Warlock staff so early on, and getting that additional boost of health and mana is just so beneficial for a soul. Even the Medusa can't keep up with boxing.
What a difference a pick makes, Taco. Here in this early game, Trifecta looked like a whole different team. Scary D's been able to rotate over and pick up kills. The communication was great. We saw the pings on the map. Mask has been involved in all 5 kills so far. They've amassed for themselves a 2,600 gold lead, a 2,800 experience lead. This Trifecta roster has forgotten about that last match already, and they're ready to rock.
Don't get me wrong. When it comes to players and their mechanical skill, it does have a pretty heavy influence on most matches. But after a certain point, And when you get to this high level of play, actually hold that thought. Homie's going to get gobbled up by that Sobek pluck, already dropping the Suns. Hurriwind's trying to get NeiruMah off of his jungler.
And Mask lands right down on top of Hurriwind, whose jump is already down. Metyankey drops the bomb on top of him. Ricochet's on the mark, but no stun to try and help him. Now they just have to find a way to close in and finish him off, and they do. Metyankey is the one that gets that. Hurriwind takes his second spill of the game.
Just stuck between a rock and a hard place, quite literally, too, looking at the new mid lane map. But Trifecta aren't done just yet. fineokay finally making the rotation.
Good stun. They might have Metyankey here, and they definitely do. There we go for Homiefe with the bat out of hell, able to finish that one up. The first kill, actually, for CLG. Mask was able to dash out of there, too, so he wasn't in too much trouble. But it's good to see anything in that position that's not a 0. And they want more. They're coming over here for the red buff. They weren't able to strip it away, but they at least slowed him down.
They got Mass Blink out of it at least, and that's better than getting the red buff in my mind, because you're not gonna have to worry about the jungler just blinking in automatically to the lane and having that instantaneous damage that's really hard to react to. Instead, if Mass wants to make that gank happen, he's gonna have to wait for his ultimate to be back up, because most rats aren't gonna want to just dash straight into you.
Scary D has so much pressure over there in that solo lane. He was able to rotate in and help get that kill in the mid lane. We saw him just now, just going to check and see if the speed buff just happened to be up, so he can try and take that one away too. He's really not worried about fineokay over here on this Terra. Last game, we saw some help come out from Mask to sort of get him ahead. This time, though, I feel like Scary D is just getting out in front on his own, and Mask is so free to rotate around.
That's just what happens when you're Bellona. She probably has arguably the best solo lane clear in the game right now, and when you don't have to worry about hanging out in your solo lane side because they're against a Terra as Bellona, it just relieves the jungler so much that they can just put all of their focus into the mid and dual lane. And Snoopy, this time not being on Soul, a lot more punishable than last game.
Yeah, on this Medusa, he could get punished out. I was just looking at it. He's about 600 or so gold behind Snoopy and about half a level as well. Again, a different tale from the last game, where Zapman this time is in a better spot. Despite being up 2 kills, though, Snoopy's kept this lead close. It could be a lot worse when you consider the help that Zapman's gotten over there in that dual lane so far.
And again, drafts really do make a pretty huge difference from one game to the next. And a Trifecta this time, their draft is just oriented a little bit more towards that early game pressure, but they've got the AoE around it. Having so much crowd control is very important during these early teamfight engagements. You want to have as much poke as possible to as many people as possible, because then their gods can't afford to go in on you.
And I agree, you know, the god selections are important, but I feel like it's an adjustment in strategy too. I mean, Nemesis can gank duo lane as well and help Zapman out over here, but we just didn't see Mask over here. This time, though, Mask made that a priority early on a god that he is very comfortable on and that we've seen him play at the highest level at before. Now, 6-1 in the kills are Trifecta. They've got about a 3,000 or so gold lead. And Mask is blinking in on the Homiefe for more. Bat out of hell, so he's up in the air. He's trying to find his way back to tower line, and Hurriwind's going to get him there. Scary D, though, rotates around the back and finds it, and they're going to come to strip away the red.
Seems like every moment someone's about to get out, Scary D just comes in saying no. And these Bellona rotations have really started to build up a pretty decent lead for him. He's only sitting 1 level above fineokay, because fineokay did choose to counter jungle a little bit there for himself, or at least take the mid Harpies. But meanwhile, Zapman and Mask are just securing this Gold Fury.
And they can. Snoopy had to back, and they'd already taken out Homiefe. I mean, who was really there to try and contest it? That gold going to jump up now to 4,200 in the lead. And Taco, you are exactly right. You are not going to be able to safely back behind that tier 1 in mid lane. Scary D has been lurking back there, waiting on those low health targets to finish him off.
The primary difference between Nemesis and a Ratatoskr is Nemesis, you kind of want to group into your team. And as soon as you get ulted, you are automatically looking for the closest cluster of teammates to try and help them peel for you and keep you safe. For a Rat ultimate, it's the complete opposite. You run from your teammates because you don't want to all get caught up into that knockup. It sets up Rat's follow-up of stun off of the Acorn Blast way too easily, and because of that, Master's just having a much easier time separating the likes of CLG and making sure that none of them really get to play off of each other.
I know we value kills in the SPL, but I kind of love the 007 slash line for Mask, because to me that really does tell the story. That feels like a facilitator slash line. That's what he's done so far. He has set his team up perfectly. Snoopy He's able to get away from that lurking in the waters, though, but he's okay. But Mask, again, is the one that's been the engine for this Trifecta team.
I have a feeling if you ask Mask what he thinks about his scoreline right now, he'd probably just say Steve keeps KSing me.
Well, I mean, yeah, Zap coming in, getting some last hits. Certainly those first two in duo lane were mostly Mask, but yeah, I'm sure he'd rather have those kills, but I mean, he has really been the one facilitating for the team.
Well, he might have the kills, so Trifecta soon might have this T1 tower as well in duo, but they're definitely going to have this red buff, or at least they're going to try for it. Homie now sitting on top of them as well, but it's going to cost him his life just trying to contest.
No way for him to defend there, and now plucked back in as Hurriwind. The walls actually kept him from going too far, but Zapman, where can you go? He channels the ultimate so he doesn't get knocked up just for that CC immunity, and Jigz is able to pull Zapman back towards the tower line, but again, so safe is the soul, and Disapparate for him able to run away. Metyankey keeps Snoopy in the backside of that fight too, so he can't put out any more damage. The blink in from Mask, though, he's nuts! He finds it and gets back out. Way to clean it up.
I'm trying not to say that was a really nutty play, but I can't help it.
That's
that was
what it
a
was.
pretty nutty play out of Mask, and I mean, this God is just so suitable to Mask's play style. He loves just being to dart right in and then immediately get out. That's what Blink Rat really lets him just have his own way with it.
And Mask must have heard me. I don't know where he is right now, but he's listening in on the cast. He heard me say he didn't have any kills, and he immediately went to rectify that one. Now sitting 2-0-7. Again, 100% kill participation. The only one in the game to be able to boast that particular stat line. He's looked like a different person on this Ratatoskr pick as opposed to that Nemesis last game. I was looking around for him in game 1, and I can't stop seeing him here in game 2.
He's just been all over the map, and that's just one of the advantages of playing the Rat to begin with, because you have that semi-global ultimate. You can be on technically one part a lot faster than what a Camazotz is going to be able to make it. And that's another thing, too. We haven't seen a whole lot of Homie except for him dying, really. And
yeah,
that's also kind of a flaw in CLG's current draft. They opted for this double hunter playstyle, but they don't really have any magical damage to try and compensate for it. And whenever you're going against two mages that are great for area control, like Soul and Agni, it's hard for a hunter like Hurriwind and Medusa to work their way into a fight.
And it's also just been too many picks for them. They haven't had a chance to get these double hunters going. I mean, for them to have their enhance to the point where they're lining up with the damage Metyankey's doing or Mask is doing in a fight, they're going to need, I feel like, a few more items than what they have right now, and they just have not had a chance to get there.
Trifecta knew that CLG would be looking for the early game, hence why we saw, I think, Homie lurking at level 2 in Trifecta's red buff jungle area. It just never really happened for CLG, though, because Trifecta played passive in their duo. They waited until they knew Homie was gone because they waited until they could see him in mid lane again. And then suddenly there's Mask there. Mask doing something that he didn't do in the previous match, where initially he tried to just look for the counter engagements, but he's starting everything off and his team is finishing for him.
Could be trouble over here for Zapman. He has that Disapparate for him, so he might be able to make it out. Homie, though, is going to continue with the chase. He jumps back in. Petrify comes out as well, dropping the Supernova down on top of him, and Homie able to try and escape. Just looking for the back here is Snoopy. You know he has nowhere to go. Gets pushed into the tower. Mask finds that one, so at least gets the return kill. Tier 1 tower, though, does fall in favor of CLG.
Best case scenario, though, for Zapman, because it was the Hunter that fell as well. So Snoopy's not going to have a chance to get ahead of Zap with some additional farm, thanks to the quick punish by Trifecta. And with the Gold Fury soon to respawn, this actually could be a downplay for a CLG, not really anticipating that Trifecta would look for this Gold Fury so shortly after.
And we saw CLG trying to pull the Pyromancer, but fineokay pushed him off of it, and then it was Homie and Snoopy that ended up finding the gank on the Zapman. This time, though, there's no problems for Trifecta being able to pull the objective. They get that Gold Fury, and now they're up 6,000 gold, about 6,500 experience. This match feels like almost the exact flip from last time, where it was Homie who was running the game and Mask who was invisible. This time, Mask is running the game, and they do not have an answer to the Rat, and their lead keeps climbing.
No vision for CLG directly on this Pyromancer, so Trifecta are just trying to burn it as quickly as possible. It's going to be a success for Trifecta. You can see that Pyromancer Fireball headed straight for their base, so they're going to have that to their advantage as well now. Just a quick little mobility boost, if anything, but it's a small amount of global gold as well that is received by the entire team. That's also just a nice little boost to have, but more importantly, it was burned before CLG even had time to respawn.
Yeah, there wasn't any way for them to fight into that one, if they could have even. At this point, Trifecta really are in the driver's seat with this game. They're the ones deciding where we're going next. If they're the GPS of this game and they're charting a course right now, and CLG Gaming can do everything they can to try and upset that. Homie has found 2 kills for them so far in this game, but they've been almost every time at the expense of his own life. They got to find a way to fight a little bit cleaner.
You know what else I love is Metyankey building Divine Ruin. Even though most of CLG doesn't really have self-sustain for themselves right now, Snoopy did opt for Devourer's Gauntlet in that 3rd item slot, but even then, the anti-heal is more so just to be annoying over anything else. It's kind of like a mosquito where you don't really notice it at first, but then you have to take note of it later on because it keeps getting progressively worse since CLG isn't going to even have any small chances for that self-sustain.
Homie had the Bat out of Hell forced out of him as well, so that's going to be on cooldown for a moment. And he'll be retreating. Look where Trifecta are up at the speed buff of CLG, so hard for him to fight back into it. Trying to steal that away. Tier 1 tower is still up in mid, and this is how deep they are. Now they're going to come back in and take perhaps an eye towards this tower. Could be a little bit of trouble for Scary D, who has everyone wrapping in on him, but they don't even want to turn around and commit to him. Instead, he'll kind of get to just walk away.
When the enemy jungler starts just taking, or I shouldn't even say jungler, because that was the entirety of Trifecta there invading Homie's speed buff. He had no chance of keeping that one safe and sound, and poor Hurriwind even invested his own ultimate into it, but now Snoopy actually on the run again from Zapman.
Yeah, this time Zapman's happy to take the fight, and he is chunking with those soul autos. Mask is here in tow with him to finish it out with the Through the Cosmos, and that's all it took. Dropped that kill down, and Snoopy will sit out for another 40 seconds. Tier 1 in mid fell as well, so the Tier 2 is exposed, and Metyankey continues to push up with those rain fire bombs. That's another thing to point out. They do have the Soul and the Agni this game to go along with the Mask, to go along with the Rat. So it's not just that Mask on a different jungler this time, but they don't have that Soul and Agni that they were relying on last game.
I feel like Zap would rather have the 1v1 there, though, than for Trifecta to come and gank. My man needs redemption.
He didn't really need Mask's help in that fight, right? It seemed like he kind of had that one. I don't know.
Every hunter, when they get soloed, it's still in the back of their mind. And I know that Zap is probably looking for that solo kill wherever he can find it, but Mash just doesn't have any respect whatsoever for the 1v1.
No, Mask says we are definitely going to be getting this kill. 4-0-7 for the jungler for Trifecta. Sitting second on that player damage chart as well, above the Bellona, but of course behind the Agni, who's, with that Rainfire, does so much damage. It's hard to keep up with him. He's had a game for himself, has Mask.
Probably only a matter of time now before Trifecta starts to look more towards that Fire Giant objective. They haven't really headed over there. It's still relatively early, though, in the match. Only 21 minutes and rising. And Trifecta have secured a pretty heavy lead for how little time has actually elapsed.
And this is, I think, showing us how much more difficult it is to just to siege in general. You know, a lot of times C4 we'd see them grouping and starting to try and force pushes or these objective fights, but instead Trifecta are amassing this lead. The last game was about 40 minutes or so. We're at 21 here right now, and all the Tier 2 towers are still up on the map, Taco. And as you said, I don't think they've even pulled the Fire Giant yet, so Trifecta playing this one carefully.
Does seem as though they're lurking around CLG's jungle, maybe seeing if they can find somebody out of position. And definitely waiting on that red buff to respawn, because Zapman definitely wants that red. Mask going to play zoning duty, but that ward from CLG is just going to keep Homie and Snoopy sitting at that T2 tower line.
They're back here in time for this Gold Fury to spawn. He is Trifecta. This is what they wanted. Yet another objective they can take. fineokay's over there in the solo lane proxy farm. That's not going to be too big a deal. What might be a bigger deal, though, is Scary D is battling it out there in the mid lane. He's got Jigz in his face and is able to force away Homiefe, who did indeed run. Gold lead now up to about 9,000 in their favor. Getting rougher and rougher to fight. Now 4 members are grouping up over here by this Fire Giant. I don't know if they're looking for picks or if they're looking to finally get this objective started up. Instead, they're going to go clear up that Tier 1 tower over in solo, make sure it doesn't fall just to minions.
All those pings and Homie just getting out in the nick of time, really, before Trifecta managed to fully spot him out. And now with the Fire Giant having been pulled just a little bit, they're still lurking. They actually want Hurriwind. They want to take him out before they even look towards that Fire Giant.
Yeah, Mask blinked over the wall while the rest of his team continues to siege the objective. He's looking for a chance to drop down. Aegis comes out before he even lands. Scary D is the one that ends up finding it, and the Fire Giant's fallen. Eagles rally comes out. Jigz trying to pull them away, but where can he take them? Nowhere, it would seem. Mask takes him back to the base, courtesy of a little bit of extra damage. They went over to the dual lane and got that tier 2 tower, it looks like. I don't know if this is going to end up being worth it, as now the back has come out of NeiruMah and he'll defend. They
wanted to keep pushing, because even if they were to try and defend their Phoenixes right now, it's most likely still not going to go in their favor because of the fact that they already have 2 of their teammates dead. So it's only 3 members from CLG left to try and defend here. Although technically it's a 4v5 since Neil is just now making his way up the mid lane.
Look at those 2 16 chunks coming out into the tower from Zapman. More than enough with that heat stacked up to take down that mid Phoenix. And good guy Metyankey is keeping the mini wave pushed up onto the tier 2 in the right lane as well, already well below half health, and they'll be able to take this one down without much problems either. So a huge swing in favor of Trifecta after getting the Fire Giant, after getting the pick, after getting the tier 2, the Phoenix, and the tier 2 in right, only giving up the tier 2 in duo lane in response.
Trifecta probably could have kept pushing their lead and maybe looked to take out that last remaining T2 tower the CLG's got in the duo lane, but they'd rather play it safe. Back and by, no rush. They have more than enough time remaining on this Fire Giant. They don't really need to try and scurry into anything too quickly. It's usually better to just keep yourselves calm and collected, spend all that gold because they had a ton of it. Now all of their members are they're all full build.
Yeah, finding that pick, I think it was on the Jigz and Hurriwind they were able to catch out. That opened them up to get that Phoenix very quickly. Sometimes when we see people get the Fire Giant here in what we've seen in the SPL so far here in Season 5, they can't always get the Phoenix that quickly, but they were able to take it and that tier 2 tower in right, so that you're right, they have plenty of time to come back, make sure everyone's just about full build. Looks like Metyankey still has a little bit of work to do, working on looks like that Op Shard, a couple items to sell still for Zapman as well, or rather the Blessing, so not all the way there, but CLG certainly going to be feeling every bit of that lead.
Soul might just be the best god in the game right now for sieging these Phoenixes.
So strong.
And again, can't say it enough, that passive is just insane for her, really helping out. Hurriwind already dropping the stuns, trying to buy some time. Zapman doesn't want to use any of his actives on that Petrify either.
What can he do? Scary D has gone so far back. He's pulled 3 members. Zapman able to find Hurriwind in the front and able to find the Phoenix over here in dual lane as well. Snoopy has the Aegis trying to keep himself alive. He does make it back to the fountain, so he's okay, and Jigz breathing out keeps them backing up for now. Trifecta look like they don't want to push into the Titan room itself just yet. They've got minion waves pouring down mid and left. They want to get a little bit more help first. Right-hand Phoenix still standing. Fire minions are here in tow. Going in as fineokay, trying to find out some slows, but the real problem now is going to be Zapman letting loose with those enhanced masks. Finds Snoopy, no problem at all. Lurking in the waters is NeiruMah, and they're turning their attention towards the Titan. Titan at half health, and Trifecta are showing all the signs that they're going to even this one up 1-1.
And again, just a complete 180, night and day between Trifecta's first game and their second match. And kudos to that team for bouncing back pretty quickly as well. That was a very swift recovery by the members of Trifecta. More importantly, though, we're breaking down the drafts and we're talking about Mask the whole time. I think where this game really kind of fell apart is just fineokay is on a god that he cannot keep Scary D under rain with.
Yeah, that Terra was not getting it done in the solo lane, but we want to know who you all think was the real MVP of that game. There's plenty of candidates out there for you between Mask and between Metyankey. I mean, they looked excellent that game, so make sure you vote there and make your chat for us so we know who you think can be the one that really made the big impact for them. But let's go ahead and get it back over to Tom and Ryan.
Thanks a lot there, guys. Welcome back to the desk. Bonus Smite Game 3.
This is what it's all about. Season 5, finally get these definitive winners. Feels really good, and it's got to feel good for Trifecta to get a chance to redeem themselves after a fairly rough Game 1, especially Mask. You know, we were talking post-game that his Nemesis wasn't quite up to snuff there in Game 1. He starts it all for Trifecta in game number 2. He was able to get off to an early lead, and not only himself getting leads, but he wasn't actually getting the kills. It was Zapman in that duo lane. And what did we talk about when we were talking about what Trifecta needed to change in game 2? Get Mask comfortable, get Zapman comfortable. Well, check, and Trifecta end up winning the game.
Like I said, the problem for me in game number 1 out of Mask was his decision-making. His slash line wasn't that egregious, but the way that where he went to get those kills and assists was the wrong spot. Now this time around, he goes, and exactly like you said, helps out Zapman, and it goes up into the victory. And no surprise here whatsoever, Mr. Askazade will be our MVP. Congratulations to Mask for that one fantastic performance on the Ratatoskr, 6-0-9 with about 14 grand in damage.
And this is how you draw it up as a Ratatoskr, right? You get big in the early game, you get your team off to a good lead, they get an extra bout of farm because of it, and then, you know, your carries start to bring home the bacon. It's your ADC, your mid laner that are really allowed to shine because of the pressure you exerted for them. And that's exactly what Trifecta did here. As much as we were, I was ranting and raving about how good the team composition from CLG was and how they used their front line effectively and allowed their backliners to play aggressive at times while not too aggressive, still staying safe. The exact same thing applies here for Trifecta. It was the perfect game plan from draft to execution. And that's what I think that we're going to see a lot more of here in Season 5, where the talent condensed into these 6 teams. It's going to take them a little bit to get their game plan and execution working in harmony, but when it does, any team can look dominant in any given game. CLG dominates game 1, Trifecta does the same in game 2.
Very, very nice stuff here. And like we said, I mean, everything that we talked about in the picks and bans kind of came to fruition for Trifecta. And I'm just very excited that we're here in game 3. Normally I ask, what adaptations you make, but there wasn't anything that stuck out for CLG for me. I think Trifecta just kind of stepped over them.
Well, in some senses, yes. For me, look, mid lane is so good right now. Yeah. Mages are so good right now. I don't see a lot of value in going towards a hunter in the mid lane right now. Hui has a very good mid game, yes, and that's where mid laners are really shining, is in that mid game stage, and that's why mages feel so impactful, because they're getting so much farm, and putting a hunter in mid kind of feels a little bit more like Season 4, where you're getting a ton of farm, more so than anyone else on the map, and then you can make that impact. Look, Hurriwind's been playing hunters in the mid lane for a long, long time. He's had success. He's had bad games on him as well. Call me a purist. I like seeing mages in the mid lane there, or a more ability-based hunter. Even if you swap Hui and Medusa there, I'm probably going to be a little bit happier. Either way, I just want to see Hurriwind back on a mage, picking the top 3 for him so they don't get all banned away. Give him his Giannis, give him one of those gods that he can carry on. He did beautifully in game 1. I want to see more of it in game 3.